Hello, 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 hello. Yes, it was Brazilian music. It was Stan Getz. He's an artist I really enjoy. Also, my hair is so long. It's just like I can't even control it anymore, guys. So hello. I realize I think I'm a little bit late. Am I late or early? I said 1 today, right? Yeah. Hi, Alberto. Hi. Let it live. Let the hair live. I am late, Anna Cat Fernandez, but I have a good reason. Yeah, Corcovado. It's a good song. So, I was late because I was reading the foreword that was written by Toni Morrison, and frankly, I felt it was so important that I'm going to read it to everyone, if that's okay. Is that cool? Because when I was reading this book, I noticed a lot of things, and then Tessa and I started having a discussion, and she was like, "Did you read the foreword?" And I hadn't yet. So she was like, "I think you really should. I think it really puts the book in a solid perspective and understanding of what Toni Morrison's hopes were, and also a really interesting perspective from the artist speaking about her novel." You give me 1 second, I'm going to turn my air conditioning on. Tessa would, I don't know if she'll join this discussion. I don't think she will for this one. Maybe the next one, but I don't think this one. I normally always read the foreword before, but yeah, it was something that I'm glad I didn't read it until after I'd read our first part, until winter. And then I read the foreword and I was like, she literally took all of the thoughts I was having, and obviously because it's her work, was able to put them into writing in a way that I was able to, I think, understand the thoughts I was having, really. You're supposed to read the foreword? I think I never did that. Prologue and forewords are made to be skipped by me. I'm sorry, I don't think I can pronounce your handle. I think the foreword and prologue are always very important, but at times they talk too much about the book and give away the book or ruin the book or spoil the book. So I start reading them until they start doing that, and then I stop. This foreword was great. So before we get into one-word thoughts and what we normally do for this book, I'm sorry, I'm diving right into this conversation because I want to make sure we talk fully about this book. So before we get into how we generally start, I'm going to read us the foreword to kind of give us all a context to place our thoughts in and continue this discussion from, if that's cool. The foreword after is a good idea, but sometimes I think it's really good to read it before, and the problem is that changes book to book, because I just hate when I get spoiled by the foreword. Yeah, so, foreword. This is Toni Morrison's foreword to The Bluest Eye. It'll take me a few minutes because it is 3 pages, so hang in. I know it's kind of long, but it was fascinating to me. So I hope you guys don't mind sharing it for the next few minutes. Here we go. Forward. There can't be anyone, I am sure, who doesn't know what it feels like to be disliked, even rejected, momentarily or for sustained periods of time. Perhaps the feeling is merely indifference, mild annoyance, but it may also be hurt. It may even be that some of us know what it is like to actually be hated. Hated for things we have no control over and cannot change. When this happens, it is some consolation to know that the dislike or hatred is unjustified, that you don't deserve it. And if you have the emotional strength and or the support from family and friends, the damage is reduced or erased. We think of it as the stress, minor or disabling, that is part of life as a human. When I began writing The Bluest Eye, I was interested in something else. not resistance to the contempt of others, ways to deflect it, but the far more tragic and disabling consequences of accepting rejection as legitimate, as self-evident. I knew that some victims of powerful self-loathing turn out to be dangerous, violent, reproducing the enemy who has humiliated them over and over. Others surrender their identity, melt into a structure that delivers the strong persona they lack. Most others, however, grow beyond it. But there are some who collapse, silently, anonymously, with no voice to express or acknowledge it. They are invisible. The death of self-esteem can occur quickly, easily in children, before their ego has legs, so to speak. Couple the vulnerability of youth with indifferent parents, dismissive adults, and a world which, in its language, laws, and images, reinforces despair, and the journey to destruction is sealed. The project, then, for this, my first book, was to enter the life of one of the least likely to withstand such damaging forces because of youth, gender, and race. Begun as a bleak narrative of psychological murder, the main character could not stand alone since her passivity made her a narrative void. So I invented friends, classmates who understood, even sympathized with her plight, but had the benefit of supportive parents and a feistiness all their own. Yet they were helpless as well. They could not save their friend from the world she broke. The origin of the novel lay in a conversation I had with a childhood friend. We had just started elementary school. She said she wanted blue eyes. I looked around to picture her with them and was violently repelled by what I imagined she would look like if she had her wish. The sorrow in her voice seemed to call for sympathy, and I faked it for her. But, astonished by the desecration she proposed, I got mad at her instead. Until that moment, I had seen the pretty, the lovely, the nice, the ugly, and although I had certainly used the word beautiful, I had never experienced its shock, the force of which was equaled by the knowledge that no one recognized it, not even, or especially, the one who possessed it. It must have been more than the face I was examining. The silence of the street in the early afternoon, the light, the atmosphere of confession. In any case, it was the first time I knew beautiful. Had imagined it for myself. Beauty was not simply something to behold. It was something one could do. The Bluest Eye was my effort to say something about that. To say something about why she had not, or possibly ever would have, the experience of what she possessed, and also why she prayed for so radical an alteration. Implicit in her desire was racial self-loathing. And 20 years later, I was still wondering about how one learns that. Who told her? Who made her feel that it was better to be a freak than what she was? Who had looked at her and found her so wanting, so small a weight on the beauty scale? The novel pecks away at the gaze that condemned her. The reclamation of racial beauty in the 60s stirred these thoughts, made me think about the necessity for the claim. Why, although reviled by others, could this beauty not be taken for granted within the community? Why did it need wide public articulation to exist? These are not clever questions. But in 1962, when I began this story, and in 1965, when it began to be a book, the answers were not as obvious to me as they quickly became and are now. The assertion of racial beauty was not a reaction to the self-mocking, humorous critique of racial, cultural foibles common in all groups, but against the damaging internalization of assumptions of immutable inferiority originating in an outside gaze. I focused, therefore, on how something as grotesque as the demonization of an entire race could take root inside the most delicate member of society, a child, the most vulnerable member, a female. In trying to dramatize the devastation that even casual racial contempt can cause, I chose a unique situation, not a representative one. The extremity of Pecola's case stemmed largely from a crippled and crippling family, unlike the average black family and unlike the narrators. But singular as Pecola's life was, I believe some aspects of her woundability were lodged in all young girls. In exploring the social and domestic aggression that could cause a child to literally fall apart, I mounted a series of rejections, some routine, some exceptional, some monstrous, all the while trying hard to avoid complicity in the demonization process Piccolo was subjected to. That is, I did not want to dehumanize the characters who trashed Piccola and contributed to her collapse. One problem was centering the weight of the novel's inquiry on so delicate and vulnerable character. A character could smash her and lead readers into the comfort of pitying her rather than into an interrogation of themselves for the smashing. My solution: break the narrative into parts that had to be reassembled by the reader. It seemed to me a good idea, the execution of which does not satisfy me now. Besides, it didn't work. Many readers remained touched, but not moved. So the reason I wanted to read up to there at least was because of the idea that Toni Morrison really actively was discovering a way to confront these questions and ideas and thoughts that she was realizing, these things. And the brilliant part that we all love this book, she feels that she failed. She feels that she didn't achieve what she wanted. And I think that's really cool and interesting. And we have to analyze that as readers now. You know, how can... I think that really called to me. There's like 3 paragraphs left, if that's cool. The other problem, of course, was language. Holding the despising glance while sabotaging it was difficult. The novel tried to hit the raw nerve of racial self-contempt, expose it, and then soothe it, not with narcotics, but with language that replicated the agency I discovered in my first experience of beauty. Because that moment was so racially infused, my revulsion at what my school friend wanted, very blue eyes and a very black skin, the harm she was doing to my concept of beautiful. The struggle was for writing that was indisputably black. I don't yet know quite what that is, but neither that nor the attempts to disqualify an effort to find out keeps me from trying to pursue it. My choices of language, speakerly, oral, colloquial, my reliance for full comprehension on codes embedded in black culture, my effort to effect immediate co-conspiracy and intimacy without distancing explanatory fabric, as well as my attempt to shape a silence while breaking it, are attempts to transfigure the complexity and wealth of Black American culture into a language worthy of culture. Thinking back now on the problems expressive language presented to me, I'm amazed by their currency, their tenacity. Hearing civilized languages debase humans, watching cultural exorcisms debase literature, seeing oneself preserved in the amber of disqualifying metaphors, I can say that my narrative project is as difficult today as it was then. So she is recognizing this issue, this story that she's trying to comprehend for a world that doesn't have the language for it. And she realized that it's her job, but it's hard to do from both perspectives. It's hard to be in it and out of it. It's hard to destroy it while trying to build it so we can understand it. And then reading now, analyzing what we've read so far, it's fascinating. I understood a lot of what she was, I won't say understood, I think I garnered a lot of what she was saying in the foreword after having read up to winter. Because we're only going to talk up to, I didn't say this yet. We're only going to talk up to winter right now, so that we can have 2 full discussions, if that's cool. We'll talk about the last 2 seasons, spring and summer, right? Yeah, we'll talk about spring and summer Tuesday. Okay, now I'm going to look at questions, comments, concerns, but let's do this really quickly, if that's cool. I do want to keep this one a little more structured today. So, can we do our taking all of this in. So no, everyone was supposed to have read the book. So thank you guys if you did. Just, I want to have two discussions. I cannot have this book with one discussion. There's a lot, and I love her language. You guys know I love Toni Morrison. So I really want us to dive in. So let's talk about. Let's just say one-word thoughts. What is everyone taking in so far in one word, or however you want? Like, what are your initial reactions to this book? Sounds good. Alberto, though, I don't know if I can join the next live. It'll be at 3:30 my time. I understand the time is going to be weird. I'm going to save it and post it so everyone can watch whenever. I just want to make sure we get those 2 lives out of it. And anyone that can join for discussions, great. If not, we'll have these up here. Pain. Yes, Toni was a genius. Yes. Okay, I can tell you how winter ends so that everyone can kind of remember. Winter ends with Pekla going to what's-his-name's house when he kills her cat, when he kills the cat, Junior's house, after she was like walking through the park. And then there's that horribly traumatizing scene where you think that she might find a friend who's going to show her a cat, and then he ends up trying to keep her prisoner and then kills the cat. Oh. Pain, raw, sad, enlightening, fast-paced, heartbreaking, angry, genius, difficult reading. Reading it gave me this really heavy feeling. Yes, I think heavy is something. The summary is written as beautiful as poetry, juxtaposed with a story of tragedy. I'm not in the right mind frame for reading, so it's really just words on a page for me. Sorry. Oh, Lynn, I'm sorry that you're not in the right mind frame. When that happens to me, I read out loud, especially with a Toni Morrison novel. I think at times people, especially, I know if English isn't the first language, I'm not saying that's the case for you, but I know that people that I've spoken to, reading Toni Morrison out loud helps them get through some of it, because she uses language in a very cool way. But besides that, reading out loud always helps me kind of get into a book, because I start to taste the words and like feel them and use them, and it feels really good. So that's a trick I have for that. Heartbreakingly sad. First part was easy to read. I suffered through the second part. Thought-evoking, educational, powerful. Morrison's use of language is phenomenal. Such a sad scene it was. Honestly, to me, can we talk about this book forever? Because make me feel so sad. Some parts are rude, powerful. I learned a lot from this book. Interesting perspective. So weird to read this book because I wanted to read it fast, but I had so many feelings. Yes, I love this book, really, but context disturbed me. Feel sad, extremely sorry and angry, not able to help the kids in their caged world. Hard read, but beautifully written. Awful. How can a kid do that to another kid? I think those are the questions we're supposed to be asking. How can a kid do that to another kid? We have to start to analyze. I think one of the things that she says in that foreword that we just read, and now, is we have to analyze the systems that are creating these issues. The system that is having children misunderstand and unable to recognize their own beauty. I thought it was really sad. Actually, I don't know if any of you guys watch Dear White People, but it's one of the shows Tessa and I started recently, and there's one scene where one of the characters, they're looking at dolls, and one goes, I want the pretty doll, you can have the ugly doll, and she hands her a black doll. And the girl who's black looks at the doll, and it was actually like a beautiful moment from this young actor, but she recognizes the doll as familiar, but then because of the implication that it wasn't the cute doll, she herself was repulsed from it in a way. So sad. And I agree, this is a hard read in that sense, an emotionally hard read to take in, to understand, and then to try to recognize the systems that we're a part of, that in all of these things. I agree. Exhausting to read, so much to absorb. Waiting is amazing. Put you in every word that she wrote. Exactly. There are some parts to it where I feel like it's something deep and I should feel enlightened. But instead I feel curious what it may mean. Interesting. I had to feel it in my soul. Yeah, I had to break it down into small sections because I couldn't believe what I was reading at certain parts. I agree. I read out loud, my mouth will go through the motions, my mind is elsewhere. I said it on Twitter the other day. Toni Morrison throws us out of our comfort zone and makes sure we don't come out unscathed. It's necessary. In a way, she shatters the illusion of the world that we live in. The illusion that's comfortable for us. So that from this moment forward, I honestly feel after reading this book, you can't go back. And I think that's why it's on the list. I think that's why it's breaking the facade that we have built and that society builds for us. And it forces us to peer through those and confront the world in which we live, and for us to recognize that we play an active part in keeping it this way, in making one world with many universes that every person lives in individually. And I love her work. And Kelsey, that's a beautiful way to say it. She throws us out of our comfort zones and makes sure we don't come out unscathed. And I felt in a very weird headspace this week, so sitting down to read was difficult. It took time to process this book. I had to sit with the uncomfortable feelings that arose, but I felt it was important to do just that. Yes, Emily, and I challenge anyone that didn't feel a little uncomfortable at certain points reading parts of this book. Even if it was, I don't know. I don't want to qualify it, but yeah, I definitely felt uncomfortable. I felt sad. I felt a lot of things. I'm trying to find the few little notes I was able to take because my pencil broke. It was after page 40, I know that. It was before winter. Sorry, I'm looking for a quote. I realized I kind of just went MIA for a sec. Where is it? Here we go. I don't know if... To me, reading the book, I felt this horribly oppressive and regimentedness that was required from the girls that we read about in this novel. Piccola, Frida, sister, I can't remember the other sister's name. But I think that's why this quote, we'll wait till quotes, sorry. As a teacher, I was so angry at the 1 or 2 paragraphs about the teacher, I had to stop reading, I was fuming. And that's another thing from the foreword, Michaela 10, sorry. When she talks about the vulnerability of youth coupled with indifferent parents, dismissive results in a world in which language, laws, and images reinforces despair, and the journey for these children to destruction is sealed. And she talks about the fragility of youth, the vulnerability of the time, and then especially, it just like, we have such an ability as people and older people that kids can look up to create a positive space where they can grow and explore and be creative and attempt to understand. But we also have just as much an ability to be closing and negative and destructive. And I think that responsibility is very heavy, and we all carry it as we get older, as we become more comfortable with our voices, and she talks about that. And that's essentially what this book is about, the destructive power we all have, and the destructive power of the system that's been in place, and how we all have to work so actively to dismantle it. I know she said in her foreword that she felt that this book didn't achieve that, but I was talking to Tessa about this. I was like, maybe the time wasn't ready for the book. At the time, people were comfortable in their whiteness or comfortable in this society, so they looked at this book and felt pity. But now, because the society's in this place where no one wants to be comfortable, I mean, where a lot of people want change, a lot of people say this is absolutely unacceptable to continue, and I can't stand the generations before me didn't do it. So now I have to. Now we have to. Reading this book in this generational context, I think, is a call to action and a force to, and forces us to reckon with our society. You know, I don't know. What do you guys think about that? I'm skipping to the end. I'm sorry. So many comments. I can't believe I have to skip all them. Okay, I'm going back up because. Okay, I'm just catching up on comments. Glad you recommended it. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I think the words can be so powerful and so damaging at the same time. What is said can be so hurtful and physically hurt. Yes, and I think emotional pain doesn't scar the same way. It scars, but it's so easily reopened. Emotional pain. It's crazy. Or it's like not really scarred, it's just like, I don't know. It's a book that makes us open our eyes to reality and pain, and she blows the bubble we lived in before we read the book. Seeing a lot of people saying they haven't been in their best headspace lately. Guys, it's okay. Remember that it's still a very difficult time for thousands of reasons, so feeling that is okay. My pencil broke. I don't know. It's one of those mechanical ones, so like it's supposed to twist out, but stupid. Alright, welcome to the life of a teacher complaining about her stationery was lost or broken. That's funny. Yes, well, Mila, you're welcome. She's one of my favorites, and we've read a few other books, so I recommend all of hers. Anything she's written, you'll enjoy it. While this book really did throw me out of my comfort zone, it made me realize that with issues such as racism, you can't be comfortable confronting them. Confronting hate shouldn't be comfortable. And you know what? I'll speak to that really quickly. I confronted someone that I know recently about the posts that they've been putting on Instagram. Just about the for lack of a better word, the amount of disinformation that was coming from this person who I felt had the opportunity to be saying a lot. So I attempted to confront them, not confront them even, just to open a dialogue to better understand their views and to hopefully, have a conversation, present them with some views and facts, real statistical facts, not just opinions. And maybe we could at least begin the dialogue to searching for the best solution. But it wasn't comfortable, and I still feel bad about it, even though that person shut me down and said I was comfortable with my opinions, but didn't feel that a conversation was valuable. And I feel bad, as if it was my fault. It's not, and that person's totally valid in whatever they feel, but I felt very disappointed that the conversation wasn't even going to happen. But I was more uncomfortable with the confrontation. And that was one of the few times that I felt it as strongly. And I agree. Thank you. You're making me realize that I shouldn't feel comfortable in that. I should feel the way I'm feeling. And to talk to Rita's point, guys, the world is not the world we've been taught that we've been living in. And we're all going through this, mass awakening to the society we live in, and a lot of us are trying to cope with that and understand, and then not only do that, actively do what we can using our privilege and power to change that, to make the world better so that our kids don't have to sit here 30 years from now and say, great, I'm protesting the same thing my grandparents protested, as if they didn't do enough then. So sorry, I went on a tangent. To talk to Rita's point, and to anyone's point, All of the feelings we're having are completely valid, and that's one of the things we have to recognize. It's okay to feel upset. It's okay to feel lost. It's okay to feel hurt. It's okay to feel mad. It's okay to feel mad at yourself. It's okay. All of your feelings are valid. It's where you take that energy and where you put it that really matters. If you're taking that uncomfortable, lost, fearful energy and you're putting it in a wall to build up around you, to further lock out those things, that might not be as beneficial as feeling it, taking it in, reveling in it, sitting in it, letting it hurt, letting it be awkward, and then using that to fuel whatever you want to do with it, to change, to be active. Those are the things you have to use that as fuel. Yeah, just epic. So I understand about having a support system could help rather than coming from all sides. So heartbreaking that a mother would look at her newborn child and think she was ugly. Piccola's getting this shit from everywhere. She is. It's okay to feel unsure about yourself, but everyone, it's perfection. It's personal. No safe place for Piccola. And that's what Toni Morrison's talking about, Annie. She's talking about that idea that for some, it's actually easy to see the road they go down because of the lack of support. And if, we sometimes don't realize that we as adults, as people who kids look up to, have such a responsibility. Because kids in turn, even if it in such small part, have a responsibility in other kids. I hate how people sometimes treat kids. Every single human on this planet has worth. If we all saw the world through the eyes of a kid, a lot would be better. Because children don't have yet all the ways to process what's going on around them. And unfortunately, the most vulnerable ones are the first to acquire those tools. They have to go faster, unfortunately. Yeah. I think physical pain is something you get over with time, but emotional pain is like a scab that just keeps getting picked at. Thank you, Jordana. That's exactly what I was trying to say. Yes. The way she would build certain characters up as better than, and then show you how cold they were, really tore into me. But the thing is, like, even the people that were built up to be better than, they were still experiencing a lot of things that they had to deny about themselves. That's, in a way, I think she did achieve that, where I don't envy anyone, and I pity them as much as I pity that internalized hate really hurts me. I hate mechanical pencils, me too. There's a really nice quote from Toni printed on the back of my book. Where she says the initial publication was like Piccola's life, dismissed, trivialized, misread, and it has taken 25 years to gain for her the respectful publication this edition is. Wow. Creo que este libro es y siguiera siendo actual hasta que la sociedad en y Sara, yo creo que también que cada año que este libro está y cada año que nosotros no tratamos de cambiar lo que tenemos o la sociedad, cada año que pasa este libro se mejora. It gets better, but not just that. Perdóname porque a veces en español yo no tengo vocabulario para decir lo que quiero como puedo decir en inglés, pero yo creo que me entiendes y si no, dime. Reading about kids is so hard in this book. I think it's really interesting too that it is children, because in a way it forces us to like strip away societal things, because maybe not, I don't know. I think I'm speaking too much from privilege here, but yeah, I'm gonna stop talking. Also, really quickly to touch on the conversation, it wasn't reaching out to a person to have that confrontation or conversation wasn't in an attempt to tell them that they were wrong or in an attempt to try to say I'm better than. It was an opportunity to educate, to understand, to question, to learn, to grow. And that's how we have to see every confrontation. At times, it'll be past that point. There are some people in my life that I'm no longer confronting, I'm shutting down. I'm saying, look, we've had conversations and I've presented you with facts many times. You continue to espouse just complete and utter ridiculousness, and because of that, I cannot give you any validity in what you're saying. But then there are others that I'm like, hey, we haven't had this conversation yet. I don't know if you're open to listening and maybe even teaching me. And that's, you have to always approach every conversation, even if you feel morally correct, to try to learn and understand, because only then does that person really feel that you're trying to do so and that you feel comfortable in accepting the idea that maybe they're not correct. If you come from this, I've got the righteousness, truth behind me, it doesn't matter what you're saying. You know what I mean? We see that on both sides, I think. I think you see people that are just completely set in their understanding sound just as ignorant regardless of which side they fall on. And I know it's hard when, like me, you do feel that I won't continue that thought. But just so you know, it was never an attempt to shut someone down. It was an attempt to explore a conversation to understanding that person's thought process and to help have them understand mine. And perhaps from there we can find a common ground that would then benefit everybody instead of just benefiting certain groups of people. So just remember that. It was never an attempt to shut someone down, silence, or quiet someone, because that's not what we believe in this book club. It was an attempt to inspire, grow, understand, learn, do all of those things. I pronounce Piccola totally different than how you're saying it. You know, the Kender, is it Piccola? Is it Peccola? Is it Piccola? I unfortunately don't know, but Piccola sounds right, or Piccola. I don't know. I know this. I feel like we're falling into. I don't know if it's wrong. I'm gonna look it up, and then next Tuesday I will have the googly, what they believe the pronunciation to be. I actually. Huge oversight on my part that I didn't do that beforehand, and I apologize. It took my book a while to get here, and I think it had to be printed. The print date was a few days before I got it. That's so cool. That's actually really cool, Annie. I think this book should be on school reading lists. Mila, you're not wrong, but then you're going to be forcing the United States to completely analyze its form of education, which we know that people don't like to do, because through education they might learn that a lot of things this country's done have been really wrong. Sorry, I might get a little shady. I've been in a shady mood these last couple of days. Piccola's fragile. I was really sorry for her. I've imagined her feelings and never to admit that I've cried a bit for her. I feel the same way. Am I talking too fast? Oh wait, no, this is the Spanish. Oh goodness, I am so far behind again. Joanna, yes, approach it as a conversation and an opportunity to learn on both sides rather than a confrontation. But because it is confronting someone about what they believe, it's hard. It's hard to change what people believe, and that's why you can't go in with that desire. For me, I go in with trying to crack the facade. I want to put a pebble in their shoe that forces them to question with every step, my way of thinking is actually uncomfortable. You got that idea in my mind that this is actually unfair to a lot of people. And I'm not an unfair person. So why do I support these unfair ideas? It's not about hitting someone over the head with knowledge. It's about placing pebbles of ideas in their shoes so that they can't walk without thinking. Maybe. Because those ideas grow. And that's why we have this book club. And that's why it's so important, because ideas cannot be stopped. Once they're in there, they grow like a weed. They wrap themselves around your thoughts. They entrench themselves in your brain. And you can't get them out. Ideas are the most powerful things in the world. And that's why every conversation is an opportunity, because ideas seep in. So if we look at it like that, it's really, I think it helps. I hope that, Ty-Dye, I hope the conversation can happen for you as well. I apologize that happened. I hate to see that. But I'm proud of you for taking what you believe you need. Know your feelings are valid. And know that it's also up to you whether or not you want to open that door again. You know, you have power there. I apologize it's happening to you. You have our support in the book club. The real pronunciation of the names are the secrets of Toni Morrison. Piccola sounds like piccola in Italian, which means little. Rita, I think you're onto something there. Textbook reform, yes. We'll talk about that some other time. I think it's peccola. I think so too, but I'm not sure. Oh no, I'm sorry that the author died. That's terrible. Sorry, education system. Really struggling with conversations right now. Most of my life is spent in the horse world and stereotypically closed-minded with very little POC representation. So tough. Emily Hope and Sputnik, I can't imagine. That's true, and that's, I think a lot of this, it's very hard for a lot of people, and I recognize that. Yeah. Hey, that's a great thing. One of my favorite mantras is it's not right and wrong, it's pros and cons. If you suggest someone is right or wrong, you're often met with hostility, but showing pros and cons can help open minds. Thank you. Ideas are the spark of hope that will light the first and will burn ignorance down. Rita, that is beautifully eloquent. In this book club, conversation and debates are key. I love that. We learn from each other. We're here with open minds. Exactly. Yeah, Rita killing us with the quotes. I think Rita nailed something there. I think you're right. Piccola. Piccola. We have about 10 minutes left. Oh my goodness, this was fast. Did we talk enough about the book? The first half was a very interesting entrance into this world. I mean, I'm gonna read the quote. I started about 10 minutes late, so we had like 10-15 minutes, so we're good. But I'm going to start with this quote now. This is the part when Peccola is with Miss Marie China and Marginot, was it Marginot? What is it? Manginoline? Oh, and there are two things that I want to read actually close to each other. So one is outside, Peccola feels the inexplicable shame ebb. Dandelions. A dart of affection leaps out from her to them, but they do not look at her and do not send love back. She thinks they are ugly. They are weeds. Preoccupied with that revelation, she trips on the sidewalk crack. Anger stirs and wakes in her. It opens its mouth, and like a hot-mouthed puppy, laps up the dredges of her shame. Anger is better. There is a sense of being in anger, a reality and presence, an awareness of worth. It is a lovely surging. Her thoughts fall back to Mr. Jakubowski's eyes, his phlegmy voice. The anger will not hold. The puppy is too easily surfeited. Its thirst too quickly quenched. It sleeps. The shame wells up again, its muddy rivulets seeping into her eyes. What to do before the tears come? She remembers the Mary Janes. I felt so bad for her in that scene. But how that anger gives her presence. That anger gives her place. There's something that Toni Morrison's commenting on there, and I think it's really powerful to see it that way. To see Anger has an ability to recognize oneself in that sense. Interesting. And then later on, all three of the women laughed. Marie threw back her head from deep inside her. Her laughter came like the sound of many rivers, freely, deeply, muddily, heading for the room of an open sea. I love that line because it was also the first time she spoke of freedom within a person. It's the first time in this book where it shows someone satisfied with a joyous feeling. You know, and I thought that was so, I noticed it. I was like, this is the first time that Piccola's noticing anyone feel content, freedom from deep inside her. To me, that was such a powerful quote. Ooh, Northern Elise, yes. Does anyone have thoughts on the waterfall imagery? It's used quite often. I will have notes for that next time, because that's cool. You're right. Well, I think waterfall is flowing water, but also a lot of power, force, but beauty. Interesting. It's the stronger, yeah. There is really nothing more to say except why. But since why is difficult to handle, one must take refuge in how. Yes. La versión debe de ser hacia ella, hacia su negrura. Todo en ella es fluido y expectante, salvo su negrura, que es pavorosamente extática, y es la negrura lo que cuento. It's beautiful in Spanish. What made people look at them and say, "Ah, but not for me"? I had only one desire, to dismember it, to see of what it was made. It discovered the dearness, to find the beauty, the desirability that had escaped me, but apparently only me. We courted death in order to call ourselves brave, and hid like thieves from life. Hid like thieves from life. We felt comfortable in our skins, admired our dirt, cultivated our scars, and could not comprehend this unworthiness. So when I think of autumn, I think of somebody with hands who does not want me to die. Oh, Thina, that quote broke my heart. Then Piccola asked a question that had never entered my mind. How do you do that? I mean, how do you get somebody to love you? But Frida was asleep, and I didn't know. Oh, Maddie McCall. Yes, Spark Notes really helps with this book. I read the Spark Notes too. I always try to do that. Read the summaries, the themes, and then look up other stuff that I think it brings up good questions. But I wholeheartedly agree with that, to supplement your reading. Not to do instead of, but to complement. Sorry, not supplement. Complement. I'm eating banana bread. Sorry. Banana bread, share with the class. Sure. Please, guys, help yourselves. Hey, Tessa? T? Do you remember that quote I wanted to share? Yeah, no, the other one.
Not the demon asylum.
Did I say another one besides that?
Not me.
Okay, then no, that was it. Never mind. Thank you. Oh my gosh, yes, Jordana. That was a great quote. That they themselves were black, or that their own father had similarly relaxed habits was irrelevant. It was their contempt for their own blackness that gave the first insult its teeth. Oh, well, hello, new member. Welcome. And yes, I suggest reading it as soon as you can. It's amazing. Thank you for joining. I hope you stay and keep reading along. If you can finish the book by Tuesday, that would be lit. I recognize that this book could be done easily, but also depends. It is heavy, so you might need a day or two in between to continue. But thank you for joining. I tried to share the banana bread. It's not my fault. Okay. First insult its teeth. They seem to have taken all of their smoothly cultivated ignorance, their exquisitely learned self-hatred, their elaborately designed hopelessness, and sucked it all up into a fiery cone of scorn that had burned for ages in the hollows of their mind, cooled and spilled over lips of outrage, consuming whatever was in its path. They danced a macabre ballet around the victim whom, for their own sake, they were prepared to sacrifice to the flaming pit. The self-hatred of their blackness really hit me multiple times throughout the book. Really hard to read. It was. And I'll tell you this. I mean, if this was a book club we met in person, we'd always have wine and cheese. But if anyone's having trouble with this book, I really recommend, you know why I always talk about this, the tastiness of language. Reading it out loud. Feeling the different words resonate, vibrate, and bounce off the insides of your teeth. And one of my favorite things about reading Toni Morrison is her ability to make tasting her novel so good. It's like she's a chef, and this is one of the best meals ever. Like, I don't know if you can tell even when I'm reading it, I want to make sure I feel where those words are banging and bouncing. And it's just one of my favorite parts about language is how they taste. So, talking about wine and cheese, I'm like, this is all the wine and cheese we need, guys. She just has such beautiful, I mean, any page. She's so beautiful. Can you be drunk from a book? I wouldn't doubt it. Less than 5 minutes. Okay. So as you know, everyone, we're going to discuss the rest of the book on Tuesday. I apologize it's happening like that. I don't want to push the conversation another week and have to wait till Sunday. Unless everyone wants to do that and wait till the weekend, I'm cool with that, but I figured we want to be moving, and since a lot of us have already finished, I figured we could have the conversations close by. But if enough people feel as though they're not ready for that, or they want to have time till Sunday, or they want to make sure that they can be there, I'm down to push to Sunday. I just think Tuesday would be the best, just so we can do that, start reading James Baldwin on Wednesday, and maybe get like 50 pages done by Saturday or Sunday. If you've already finished the book and want to begin If Beale Street Could Talk, you can. By all means. Tuesday works great. Okay. And then I understand that it's not going to be as visited, so I will make sure I post it. And if not, can someone do the thing where they film it? I don't know how to do that. I don't know the apps. But if you guys can figure that out as like a backup in case the post doesn't work, that would be great. I probably won't start with a song because I know that sometimes cuts it off. So we'll finish the book for Tuesday, and then Tuesday we'll talk more specifically about how far we're going to read for this weekend's If Beale Street Could Talk. But if not, but if you want to start, you can. You can start right now, and then you'll just read. And then if you read too far, good for you. You don't have to worry about reading. So I say just start reading, and then tie-dye we'll figure it out for tomorrow. I know Bluest and bestseller. Okay. Thank you guys. Today was really cool. I think you all know that I love Toni Morrison's writing. I love her imagery. I love the perspective. I love how much we're learning. As this week continues, I challenge all of us to continue starting conversations, not confrontations. I challenge us to being open to learning, and yes, you can learn from everyone, not just people that you agree with. I'm learning that lesson too. So yeah, continue to stay open and don't shut people out of your lives because of conversations, knowing that ideas can be that pebble, and then sometimes that grows into a rock, and then sometimes you have to take off your shoes and learn how to walk without them. So it's a good, I don't know if that metaphor worked, but understand, as long as we're always open. So continue questioning, continue learning, continue being open, continue growing, and continue to be positive forces of change in your communities. We need them now more than ever, and we could be the change that we want to see. We could be that person that finally gets someone that doesn't agree with us to think maybe, and that maybe could turn into a how did I think this way before to a I'm on your side. You know, we just have to stay positive. If you can't stay awake for Tuesday, it's okay. I'm counting down for 15 seconds now. So I will see you guys on Tuesday. Thank you for joining. All of the new readers, thank you for coming. Invite your friends, and I'll see you guys soon. Peace.